Good morning. Last week I spoke about peace, and that peace is on those on whom God's favour rests. This week I'm going to take a little step back. Today I'm going to sit with a group of shepherds out in the fields watching their sheep. As you can imagine, it would be pretty boring sitting around all night watching a group of sheep. But the text actually says that the shepherds were living in the fields. Their job was to watch and care for the sheep day and night, 24 hours a day, every day. There was no knocking off and going home after their shift. Their lives revolved around the care and maintenance of the sheep placed under their care by an owner who probably had no patience or excuses around something bad happening to the sheep. You can imagine if something happened to the sheep, they're going to cop it, these poor shepherds. But there they are at night. Suddenly, there's angels flying around and a bright light. The shepherds were terrified. In Luke chapter 2 verse 8 it said, "And there were shepherds living in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified." They would have been. They were probably more terrified of something happening to the sheep than themselves. But in verse 10 it says, "But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people.'" You see, the angels weren't the least bit interested in the sheep. The message they had was that something far more important was happening here. And it was more important than their lifetime of watching sheep and perhaps providing tips on how best to care for them. The message was going to bring joy to all the people. Verse 15, "When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, 'Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about.'" These shepherds have just completely forgotten about the poor sheep. They've just decided to pack up and leave the sheep alone, fending for themselves. The angels told them not to be afraid, to look beyond the drab existence and circumstances they found themselves in. Perhaps move beyond the small little world they lived in and go and see the joy that had come to all people. I bet the boss wouldn't be too happy to see his flocks abandoned like that. And I'm sure there would be serious repercussions. And also, the excuse of angels flying around wouldn't have washed either. These were dangerous times for lowly shepherds and the like. But the good news came to them first. And they were suddenly unafraid and went off looking for something. The angels described it as the good news which would bring joy to all the people. But what actually is the good news? The angels said it was, in verse 11, "Today in the town of David a Saviour has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord." That's the good news. A shepherd was born to a group of lowly, smelly shepherds. They left behind their drab lifestyles and went looking for him, the Messiah. They didn't go off in search of fame and fortune or better sheep. They simply went off to find their Lord and Saviour. And this is the good news. It's the same good news as we have today. There are things that make us afraid, isn't there? There are things that hold us back from us doing what we want to do. There are things that stifle the joy and make life miserable and tough. Let's face it, we live in a scary world. And very often, that is the thing that stops us in our tracks. Imagine this for a moment. If it really didn't matter about sheep. Imagine if the angels were right all the way along and we could also go and see the Lord and Saviour. We don't have to go all the way and visit Bethlehem, especially not anymore because Jesus was born a long time ago. But we could still visit him. In John 12, verse 26, whoever serves me must follow me, and wherever I am, my servant also will be. My Father will honour the one who serves me. Our joy is not found in this world, but that Christmas so many years ago told of the joy that had come into the world for all the people. Come and see. Thank you for listening to me today. Have a great and blessed week and a Merry Christmas.